All right, welcome. My name is Jennifer. I am so excited to be chatting with Rance Edwards today. Welcome. How are you today, Rance?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thanks. I am really excited to dig into your story and your journey and all of the wealth of knowledge that you have to share with all of us. I see that we've got some people joining, and I do want to make sure, hi, Larry, that everybody can see the chat and ask questions in the chat because as we dig in, I think the most valuable thing that we're going to get from this hour with Rance is being able to ask him questions about clients and marketing and his health coaching practice. And so I want you guys to say hello in the chat. Hi, Jane. Hi, Larry, and make sure that that you are able to use that chat function and ask those questions. We also have the Q&A box, which you're welcome to use as well. But I can see both. I can see the Q&A box and I can see the chat. I see Lisa, I see Leah, I see Tom, Nancy, April, Terrence, Dana. Hi, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to dive in. So let's go right ahead and do that. Let's dive in. So, Rance, I would love to hear from you. Can you start a bit by sharing about your health journey? What were the key turning points that inspired you to pursue a career in health coaching? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as everybody knows, I'm Rance Edwards and Master Primal Health Coach here at PHCI. And I don't have a very pretty health history. I'm only 31 years old, and it was in my early to mid 20s that my body was falling apart. And I pretty much, if you just looked at my health, you probably would have thought I was 75. And there's just a long list of things I was dealing with. And, I'll try to run through those in, uh, I guess, a clean manner, but it's just I had a really poor memory. I couldn't remember three digits to save my life, short term, long term. I had a really bad brain fog. I had horrible fatigue at all times. My hunger was insatiable, and I couldn't stay awake for probably more than 2 or 3 hours. I'd have to nap. And I was also dealing with pretty severe depression and anxiety and chronic injuries from doing things that shouldn't hurt a person. And just to give you an idea of how long this list is, that's like halfway through. I mean, I was shutting down, and we're talking eating home cooked meals too. And so, a lot of factors go into that. And that's scratching the surface of what could have potentially even been a brain tumor. I had a constant pressure in the same spot on my head for years of my life and migraines, and, it was a rough time. My mom actually had bipolar disorder, and she was claimed by pretty aggressive heart and lung cancer. And so, the concern back then was always like, this is something that I might be, have a predisposition for. And so that's kind of what my health journey looked like. And it stayed really bad up until about 6 years ago. And that's when, let me wind back just a little bit. So at the height of my health problems, I was still, and I look back and wonder, how was I doing that? How did I have the energy for that? But I started being a personal trainer. And, it was unofficial at first. This was probably around 2018. I just was working out and, learning stuff off the internet and training my friends who didn't know, where to even start. And meanwhile, my body's shutting down. But, I felt just a little bit better by killing myself in the gym. And so I did that for a while and I helped other people do it. And I eventually went and got certified as a personal trainer. And, I built up a clientele that way. And that was people from work. But during the certification, I remember because my health was so bad and I was just having so much trouble retaining information, I was breaking down and crying. And I was having to coordinate with the instructor and just explain the situation. And they were so, sympathetic about the situation. And again, I look back and wonder, how did I make it through that? It's just, I can't believe in hindsight. But I think what really inspired me to start helping other people, other than the fact that I felt that the end all be all at the time was personal training and building muscle and working out, I actually hated nutrition at the time. And what happened there is, I got people strong and I got strong myself, but I still felt like garbage and I couldn't get people to lose weight. And that's when it clicked in my head, wait a second. So, hammering down and doing the same thing over and over is not the answer to this solution. Maybe it's nutrition. And, that was the big turning point for me when I stumbled upon keto. And so I tried that out, very cautiously optimistic. It was kind of a Hail Mary, really. And I started to see my health turn around. And that's when my mind opened up and I thought, what am I missing here that's not being taught in the mainstream? What am I, what's the magic ingredient to this recipe that I've not been privy to all this time? And so that was the major turning point for me that led me down the path of getting into, primal lifestyles, like the spectrum of primal lifestyle all the way over to what's getting really popular now with people, carnivore. And so somewhere within there, I figured like this is all the stuff that, I've stayed away from because the nutrition section that was in my personal trainer certification kept me away from that stuff. And was all about just fixating on counting calories. And for the most part, it almost didn't matter based on that curriculum back then, like what the calories were. It's like it just mattered that, you stay under a certain amount or get enough. So that's kind of where my mind opened up to all of this. So that's my long-winded life health journey.
No, I love it. Not long-winded at all. In fact, I want to kind of dig in a little bit more into a couple things that you said. I'm so interested to hear a little bit more about what, I mean, you mentioned, you said your body was falling apart. You were not feeling good. You were fatigued. You didn't know how, and I love what you said about I thought the answer was killing myself in the gym. And so tell me more about how did you get into personal training if you weren't feeling physically well? And like was that your kind of your thought like this is going to be my fix? This is what's going to help me?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think you hit the nail on the head there because th- I guess 5, 6 plus years ago, at least for me, that was my era of, whoa, Instagram feels kind of new. At least for
Mhm.
me, I took a while to get onto certain platforms, but scrolling those, I was following all kinds of motivational accounts because I thought, man, this is just a motivation thing, maybe. And it's like, I'm not trying hard enough. And all these other people saying general things like, well, just, the gym solves all. And I think it solves a lot of things. And it's a really important part of health. But that's just what I happened to latch onto. That's the first thing that was put in front of me that gave me some kind of hope that I didn't have before. And so I started working out. And, I was obsessively in the gym like maybe 6 nights a week, sometimes for as long as 3 hours. And that to me, something I missed was that I used to be 260 pounds and I'm 175 now. And I remember back then, the gym, it was effective, I think, with some other less than healthy lifestyle habits that were causing my body to cannibalize and lose weight. But, I did build quite a bit of muscle, but I never felt good that whole time. It's weird how my mind works, how the human mind works, how we'll double down on something even when we don't have a trackable metric for progress and just keep on chugging.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what got me into personal training. And even though it had not positively changed a lot of the conditions that I was dealing with. That's the weird thing about the human mind, or perhaps just mine. I thought, well, still, I trust that these people are saying that this is the life-changing thing to just work out and nothing else matters. And so I started to project that onto other people when I got into personal training, thinking, in deep in my head, I still thought this is the way. And so I thought, well, I'm going to help other people get on this way. And so that's what got me into personal training.
Yeah, well, and you're being your actions in the gym are being reinforced, positively and reinforced, right? Because I imagine that's like you said, double down and like just work harder, just do more reps, more time in the gym, and then understandably, you kind of parrot that to the people who you are training. And so you said you did see some change in your body. So also I imagine that's a little difficult to say, well, I see some changes happening, so maybe
Mhm.
it's just more of this that I need
Gotcha.
for a while at least, right?
Yeah, you make a good point. So, I guess I so much nowadays, based on where I'm at, fixate on the things that are going on under the hood because back then it was all about, weight loss. And I think it still is for a lot of people,
Mhm.
but that's something that, maybe I missed it when I was talking about my health journey being 270 pounds because all the other things that I was dealing with in my life kind of overshadowed that for me. So it's
Mhm.
like the one thing that was really a positive metric of progress, which was that weight loss. It still wasn't the thing I was chasing. So that, that didn't even honestly register on my radar at the time as a positive change. But in hindsight, I can recognize, well, that was a sign of some kind of movement because it's not, I think it's objectively not healthy for my frame to be 260 pounds.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, so now I want to shift into like what got you, like what triggered that realization that this is not quite it. Maybe nutrition, and like you said, the personal training curriculum just barely, just obviously really just scratched the surface of like a little bit of nutrition, and it has a lot to do
Mhm.
with calorie counting. So and I love what Lysiana, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She says, I marvel how seriously people underestimate the value of nutrition. Good, thank you. I'm glad I pronounced that right.
Mhm.
Many of the people I speak to on a daily basis, chefs, healthcare workers, just dismiss this notion outright. I agree. And April mentioned, I'm looking forward to being a nutritionist. I found that nutrition has helped in maintaining my son's
Mhm.
autism. That's amazing. That's amazing. Larry said, Larry's mentioning asking if anybody's coming up for Austin for Paleo Effects, and said my mom was misdiagnosed as bipolar. You're describing my health life word for word, except never to the gym. So thank you. And fit, but what I love, he said fit but unhealthy, and that's a really profound fit but unhealthy. So I want to ask you then, what triggered that realization that nutrition is something that you need to focus on. Maybe you need to pay attention to. And I love that you said you didn't want to. I get that.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to. I didn't want to deal. We wouldn't have to deal with that part of things. But obviously it gets to the point where you can't ignore it at some point. So tell me about that moment.
Oh yeah, would love to. So I gotta say, I mean, for me at that time, just in that transitionary period, I didn't like nutrition because the word macros is such a strong word thrown around out there, and it has a place in the proper context, of course. But what really changed things for me is even though that I wasn't improving by the metrics that I wanted to, I have always cared about other people. I mean, I love my friends. I love people that I don't know. I want to see them succeed, maybe to a fault in a lot of cases. And, it was a challenge to my goals as a human being to help other people when the people that I was serving were not being served the way that I wanted to serve them. They weren't progressing. It was, every client became this mirror for me, and that kind of hurt to see these people that I could make strong, but they weren't losing weight. They weren't feeling particularly better overall. I mean, yeah, we could celebrate, uh, you know, hey, you got your squat up to 400 pounds. That was a cool achievement. But in the grand scheme of things, whether or not they told me directly, it's like I think they'd rather have a good quality of life overall than be miserable and be able to squat 400 pounds. And so that was a big turning point for me because these are people, these clients became my friends. These are people I care about. I want the best for them. And with the knowledge that I thought I had, which I thought was expansive at the time, I couldn't help them. And that was just kind of a heartbreaker. And it made me look internally because it wasn't something they were doing wrong. These were people who were committed. I didn't want to fall into the trap of assuming, well, they're just going home and not doing the things that I'm telling them to do. And I had relationships healthy enough to the point where I could just kind of ask them and they would be honest when they were not doing the things that they were supposed to. But I was finding this stuff wasn't as frequent as would be required for them to really feel as miserable as they do. So that was my big change point.
Gosh, I love that so much. That self-awareness, that desire to truly help, and that what you said, that relationship building. I think that's so awesome. Lisa says, thanks for sharing your light bulb moments. I agree. And I really wish I could have figured this out when I was much younger. Never too late. Never too late. I think that this is perfect for right now, where you are, Lisa. And I really like what you said, Rance, about every client became a mirror. That is really powerful, because that means that, like you said, you're not just dismissing, like, oh, they're just not doing what I've told them to do, right? I send them
Yeah.
off. It's not working because they're not doing what I told them to do. That is, I feel like I've heard that a lot, and I think it's a really wonderful thing for you to say that and recognize, well, what's the common denominator here? What can I do to change that, to help? So I want to ask you. You had mentioned you building relationships. I want to kind of hone in on that. And I know there's questions that I absolutely want to get to, but real quick, I want to ask you. So you worked with all these clients, you said, before formal certification, right?
Mhm.
And so how did you do that? How did you talk about how you found those clients, and how you went from how you used your relationship building skills to get clients before formal certification?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say, I mean, there is not one perfect roadmap that covers everybody. And, I want to be transparent about this because I want to help set people up for success in their own situations. But, the places that I worked, which that's going to vary for people I know, but the places that I'd worked several jobs, and the reason that I'd worked several jobs was actually because of my health complications, and I'd have to switch because the people loved my personality, fortunately, and I loved those people. But there came a point in some of these jobs where I recognized this is not the place for me with the health conditions I'm dealing with. It's going to negatively affect the people that I'm working around and serving. So I will say I built up a community of people through working at those different jobs. And I built the relationships by just being warm with people and being genuine. And, I think that I don't really believe that being personable and warm is something that, you have to be born with. I think that's something that you can build upon and you can work on. And, you can, I mean, there are a lot of resources. I don't want to keep it too vague and say you can just look at videos, but, you can search for things and get on YouTube and look at other people who are good people and try to pick up on the habits that they use. The whole idea of active listening and some of the things that are learned through the courses here at PHCI are some things that I just happen to come across, outside of it in different forms, and it wasn't all put together. I got lucky, to be honest. And I learned about just listening to people and listening for what people want and how they want to be treated versus how I think they want to be treated or how I want to be treated. Because I think, the golden rule being do unto others as, you know, you'd have them do. It's like that's not actually something that I've found a ton of success with. I've had to modify that a little bit and treat others how they want to be treated, not how I think they should be treated. And it's a bit of a dance trying to figure that out, and I'll admit that. And that's something that I think I learned through exposure to lots of people over time, and I got to face those real life consequences when I wasn't doing something right. And, if a person pulled away from me or didn't want to interact with me, that's when I had to look inside and think, what is there that potentially I could have done wrong, or how was I awkward in that situation? How was I not genuine? And on the same token, you got to forgive yourself too when you're dealing with people. It's not all your fault. Oftentimes people are dealing with things and that bleeds over to you. All that to say, just learning to interact with people in a warm, genuine way and really listen to them. And when you're listening to them, listen to understand and not listen to respond. Those are all things that built up my relationships with people. And the way that that kind of opens up and becomes something that pulls in clients is that if somebody knows you be genuine and they know what you do, and they happen to run into a friend or something that's looking for what you do, I think there are a million people that do every job, but the one thing that helps a person stand out in my situation was just being a genuine and kind person. And so, I think if I had to put something kind of concrete there to work towards, it's just, even practice with the friends that you have, the family you have, maybe ask them, how do you view me? Or like, this could be uncomfortable for people, but I think there are moments that are worth that discomfort. And that could be asking your closest friend or somebody, it's like, what about me maybe makes you uncomfortable? Or what about me just kind of makes you want to shut down and not continue the conversation with me? And that's a broader open starting point to where you can funnel down and look for the things that really make people want to hang out with you and talk to you, and then capitalize on those and try to spread the values of that characteristic to other ways that you interact and handle people. Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so many good takeaways in all of that. That was so good. I will have to say, it seems like being genuine and kind and an active listener comes pretty naturally to you. And but I also love that you said it can be learned. And so did you have any teachers, mentors, guides on how to, build those skills?
I admit I've had a few, and I think it has to do with the poor state that my brain was in for all those years that if you ask me to come up with a list on the spot, I can't name them, but I've had many, and some are in person and people that I work with, and some are personalities on the internet. One that does come to mind are people like Jocko Willink, retired SEAL team commander. He is somebody who I think got my mind, got the hamster wheel rolling on taking ownership of, I guess, how I act and what I do, and recognizing when it's me or when it's the other party, when a situation goes downhill. And, that would be a person who I feel like I learned a lot from, because they've gotten that experience from a military setting, working with people where people are not just robots. You can't just tell them what to do. You also have to win their hearts to a degree. And the same thing works in a business place. So those are concepts that I've spent many nights just kind of had boiling in my brain and then solidifying. And sometimes I'll say there are a lot of lessons that I pick up and I hear from whether it be Jocko or other mentors, um, that in the moment, what they said did not make a lot of sense to me. It did not resonate with me. But it's like when we're kids, we might hear something from a parent. There comes a point in life where we have the knowledge and we have the maturity and the understanding and the context that what was said clicks. So if somebody's watching something, trying to learn about improving their people skills, or even a mentor of yours is saying something that maybe doesn't click or resonate with you in that moment, that doesn't mean it's wasted time. It very well may click later. I think the probability is really high that it will click later, because I have that type of a moment every single day, and it's just wild.
That's awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to jump into the chat because I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Um, April, I'm going to go back a little bit. April says, new Primal Health Coach here. Congratulations, April. Shocked that so many primary care physicians, as well as specialists, even oncologists, just don't accept that people can regain metabolic health through proper nutrition. Couldn't agree more. My
Mhm.
cardiologist told me I would kill myself on a ketogenic diet and just to take the statin. And even after I reversed type 2 diabetes and heart disease, I'm excited to help clients find a better way. Well said, April. So, so glad you're here. So glad that you advocated for yourself. I think that's something that is so important with being a health coach, is encouraging and supporting your clients in being their own advocates when it comes to these relationships with doctors. I always tell people you can get a second opinion. You can find a doctor that will listen, that will work with you. It may take a little while, but it's possible. Lysiana says blaming the victim mentality. That's one of the reasons I got into health coaching, giving people hope. Yes, awesome, awesome, awesome. Be the victor, not the victim. Exactly. A different April says, my husband and I have noticed certain food dyes cause big changes in their mood. Yep, yep, yep.
Mhm.
Luciana, many of the GPs here in Tasmania are living in 1990 with their ideas about cholesterol, diet. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, these are such good observations of this conversation. Um, Developing self-awareness, authentic expression. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that we are in this industry because we have a true passion for it. And so letting that shine through, I think is so important. All right, Larry is back. Dang, Larry, you didn't miss anything because I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. Larry had a question at the beginning. This is a little bit more about structuring your coaching program and your coaching business. So I'm going to ask you, Larry. You don't worry. You're back just right in time. He says, I'm starting out on my own after 5 years of health coaching for a company. I feel that one-on-one coaching will not be my forte, but I am interested in YouTube, podcasts, website, membership, Substack, etc. Is that a viable strategy? Suffering is solution. Yes, 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 yes. Your journey sounds like mine. Wounded healer. Awesome. So, Rance, do you have any thoughts on Larry's question?
Yeah, so I'm coming through the chat trying to find it because I don't want to miss addressing any particular
Yeah,
parts of
so
it.
this question is actually in the Q&A box. It came
Oh,
through as a Q&A. I'm not sure if you're able to see that or not.
perhaps not. I mean, I'm going to do the best I can off what I
Yeah,
remember.
and let me know. I can read it. So, starting out on my own after 5 years of health coaching for a company, I'm not interested in one-on-one coaching, but I am interested in YouTube, podcasts, website, memberships, Substack. Do you think that's a viable strategy? Is there a viable strategy in health coaching to groups versus one-on-one?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, that's beneficial to everybody, depending on any platform, I think you could pull this off. And, I have more experience, I'll admit up front, personally, with being in a Zoom call with a bunch of people, for example, versus having, recurring kind of evergreen content where people come and watch it. And I think, if I'm understanding correctly, a person absolutely could health coach through non-live videos. I think it's something people don't talk about a lot, and it's kind of creative in that way. But um, for example, if you speak to broad problems that a lot of people are having throughout videos and address those that way and have potential solutions, that's a great way to get that coaching out there that's going to apply to people long after the video has been recorded and posted. Now, I will say within a group coaching setting, such as doing a Zoom call with a bunch of people, absolutely. I mean, if you have people um, paying to come in and do that, number one, they can pay a lower price than they could for one on one coaching. So you're lowering the barrier to entry for them to come and be a part of that. Number two, with all the different people that are in on a group coaching session, I have found for myself and for other people, there will be questions asked that you didn't even know you wanted to be asked and answered. And so you get all the insights from all of the other people who are being coached in those group sessions too. And I think those are all really big selling points for the client and why people would want to be a part of that group setting, because you're also getting clients dabbling in having a community. And community is a huge factor. That's something I see currently missing in a lot of places. And it's a huge factor for success to just know that there are other people walking the same path with you, or, at least they're not in the perfect spot that, world and media likes to try to tell people that everybody else is in and you're the only one that's having problems. But I think, yes, very viable across all those different platforms, whether it be live group coaching or having videos going out. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I had a really wonderful career coach talk to me about the pros and cons of groups versus one-on-one. And what she said was beautiful. She said, you forget that you are not the holder of all the magic, right? Yes, you are the expert. Yes, you are the teacher. Yes, you are the coach, but you don't hold all the magic. And the magic comes from the group. The magic comes from just what you said, Rance, is that you get to see the answers, to hear the answers to questions you didn't even think to ask, and you get that community support. And I just think I'm a huge fan of group coaching. I think it's really magical for sure. All right. So Lysiana says, I am just trying to build up some sort of following in my health coach persona on social media platforms, but it's terrifying. I hear that. That's understandable
Mhm.
and slightly overwhelming. Does it all just boil down to consistency?
So to address that, I would say consistency is a factor. It can play a role, and I've seen people who are just consistent with, in the context of social media, if they're posting every day, yes, that's good. And I think this is where it is important to recognize, perhaps as I did back when I was going the consistency route, I didn't realize what I didn't know. And there are a lot of different little things and little tweaks to maximize the effect of using social media. Even if you're posting consistently, that's like one out of 10 different things that are required to really get people viewing your stuff and seeing it. And, that's where I would direct a person to, watch a YouTube video on like how the algorithm works, or maybe what other people are doing in particular posts to get some engagement. I know that's kind of cumbersome, but that's one of the roadblocks for me that I had to go and hunt down. And, unfortunately, off the top of my head, I don't have a particular influencer or particular YouTube personality that I can reference that talks about that. But, I've seen them out there. And if you just search, for example, how to increase Instagram post engagement, it goes into stuff like what kind of hashtags or what time of day to post. And I've seen some of that be effective, but now that I've got all that out of the way, I think there's something that is not getting talked about enough in this setting, and that's the networking and interacting with other people in the space that you associate yourself with. And for me, I'll admit it was dumb luck, but it doesn't have to be dumb luck for anyone that's here today. I started reaching out and messaging and interacting with some of the personalities that I follow that have huge followings that I really like. Steak and Butter Gal being an example, Bella that runs that whole outfit. She's got thousands and thousands of followers. And I thought, if I comment or send her a message on Instagram just asking about something, she's never going to see it. But she did. And now we're on a text back and forth basis. So, don't be afraid to reach out to people who are successful on these platforms. And I keep going back to Instagram because that's where I do most of my stuff. But don't be afraid to reach out and message these people, DM them. It's like, hey, I'm like a fledgling coach and I see you've built this up and you're doing really good. Or, even an influencer like, hey, would you like to collaborate maybe? Because the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no. They're not going to see the message in the inbox. And that's such a low consequence to something that could really pay out. Because for me, it paid off. It paid off. I reached out to people I thought would never reply, and they got back to me and helped me out. Even other primal health coaches that have bigger followings and have been featured on episodes like this, I reached out to them. I talked to them, and some of them I'm working with and building things with today.
Oh, that's huge. Okay, I love that. And Luciana says, great advice. Definitely look into that. And thank you for answering my follow-up question, which is I wanted to get into the little bit of the nitty-gritty about that. Like, what's your advice on what do you say? What do you just say to someone? And if someone has a much bigger following than you, or if maybe somebody has a moderately larger following than you and you want to collaborate, what is the best way to approach that conversation with someone? So you answered that. That's good.
Yeah.
Super
Okay.
helpful.
Okay. I was thinking of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I want to touch on Jill's question, but I also want to first, Sarah says she's reached out to fellow PHC coaches as well. Awesome. Very good. Um, all right, let's go to Jill's question or Jill's comment. She said, I'm interested in working as a health coach for a company or an integrative functional doctor, but
Mhm.
struggling to find offices that are consultative, not just trying to sell a weight loss program. Do you have any advice or tips for Jill?
Oh, I'd love to get into that. That kind of transitions into the next part because what I'm doing right now is working as a care team health coach in a metabolic health clinic. So,
Tell us all
you know,
about
it's a
that.
good time. I'll say that. I'm doing that and running my own thing and working on projects. But if you're wanting to get into that space, I'll tell you exactly what I did and then maybe offer some other insights. But I went to I went to an event, and that kind of goes back to networking. But, I don't know how many people here might be familiar with KetoCon, but I went to that last year for the first time. And I, before going, underestimated the power of going and being in a community gathering of like-minded people. And places like KetoCon, these health conferences that have expos, those are the places to go, I think, especially in the low carb, keto, carnivore space, if you want to work for a place that's not just trying to sell a weight loss plan, because those are the people there that are giving keynote speeches and really believe in what they're doing and are focusing on metabolic health rather than, dare I say, get rich quick schemes. But interacting with those people sets you apart. And being there in person, I didn't know this until after I was hired on, but there were over 3,000 applicants for Rivero at my time of application. There is no way that it would have been pulled if I hadn't been there in person. I went up to the desk or went up to their booth and introduced myself, got to know them, met Dr. Baker, and happened to mention to their ops director, hey, so I put an application in, like, is there an update on when you guys might be bringing in coaches? And the response was, oh, let me pull your application and look now. And that was one of the biggest things that helped set me apart in that moment. So, oh, quick side note. I'm kind of watching the chat.
Yeah.
Somebody asked something relevant. KetoCon, I think, changed name for 25, Hack Your Health.
Oh, nice.
So,
Hack your health. I
yeah.
like it. I
But
like it. All right. So
yeah.
I'm hearing you put yourself out there, you put yourself in maybe potentially some vulnerable, uncomfortable situations that when you reframe it, like you said, the worst thing that can happen is they say no. And and you keep going, you keep doing that. You just keep putting yourself in these networking situations. I love that. I love that. Um, okay, so Luciana has a great question here. I'm planning to go to the Low Carb Down Under conference. My imposter syndrome stopped me from attending in 2024. So talk into that imposter syndrome. We all have it.
Oh, yes, I have it now. I have it today. And I would say I'm thriving more so at this point in my life than I ever have. And the imposter syndrome does not lift, but I have reframed that for myself as motivation to really do my best and do my research and know my stuff and commit things to memory. That's just for me. The imposter syndrome for some people, I imagine from a couple of people I've spoken to, they've been able to help it lift. But I do want to say it, I would not expect it to disappear. Use it as motivation. And I had it going to KetoCon last year thinking like, oh, I'm just a health coach. Like there's going to be doctors and nurse practitioners and all these big name people there. And I fought through it. I'll admit because I'm human, I almost didn't go. I was pushed by my wife to go. And, I thought, it's a trip. It costs money. I don't know. It feels like leisure. But she pushed me to go, and I'm happy that I did because you will find that there are amazing people there. And when you're with other like minded, genuine people who are supportive and, they have no ill intentions to other humans around them, that makes your imposter syndrome not completely disappear, but fade so far to the back that you forget about it because then you're focused on just interacting with other wonderful people that maybe you didn't even know existed in this quantity of people out there in the world. And for me, going to KetoCon, or, I really want to go to Low Carb Down Under, just know that you're going to be with people who are there for the right reasons. You're because of the barrier to entry, because of the cost, maybe because of the travel, because of the topic. These are people who are they're already looking for deeper meaning in different things. They're trying to learn things too. They probably all have imposter syndrome as well. I am not going to name big names, but I know a lot of people in the keto carnivore community up top, they have imposter syndrome too, but they use it because it's a tool to pressure test your knowledge. Because if you pressure test your own knowledge and you can't poke holes in your ship when you're trying to poke holes in it, you can go out there in the world with some confidence that, I know what I'm talking about. I've tried to disprove it. And that's where you can start to turn down the volume on imposter syndrome and turn up the volume on confidence in yourself.
So good. So good. I love it. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I want to go back to your private practice and ask Stephanie's question. How did you decide on how to price your services?
So I will say for me, that was a long, painful road. And so you don't have to go through all the trouble that I went through, and hopefully you'll be able to start at the point where I felt more comfortable because I started out, some of the people that I was bringing in, and there's utility to this, but I brought too many people in the beginning for free. And those were friends that even tried to send me the signal, hey, we want to pay you. It's like, no, 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 you're helping me out. I'm getting experience, which for some people, that's great. And some of those people, I needed that valuable experience, but I went overboard because I've been a people pleaser all my life. And so I even turned down people wanting to pay me. Now, my pricing structure that I have today, based off of going through all that and learning, it's like, well, I can't feed myself with good intentions, was essentially, what, and I can try to get into this, but what do you feel like an hour of your time is worth? And what do you feel like an hour of information is worth to a person that has come to you trying to figure out where they are in life and figure out what they need to do to get to where they want to be in life? And, you can even bring this in, and this is something that varies place to place. What's the demographic around you too? Because I'll admit that the location that I live in, lowest cost of living in the US. So, am I going to try to market my neighbor $2,000 when if I know without a shadow of a doubt, perhaps that's not something that, me being a part of the neighborhood I'm in would want to dish out prior to all the stuff that I've done at this point. I hope that makes sense. But, those are the three factors I'm taking into account. What is an hour of my time worth? What is an hour of, the end game for this person, information getting them their worth? And then what are the people that who are the people that you're trying to market to? So, for example, I know a lot of people who have a lot of success and have the time and the flexibility to offer, impromptu, well, not impromptu, but paid per sessions. And I'm not even saying that's the best model. I'm just saying that's an option. I've got friends who will do a $75, 1 hour session. And then I know that through our certification, we look at programs. Programs are great because it gives somebody something to commit to, and that will help encourage them to adhere. And especially the price that you're setting is also something that helps them stay accountable in their own minds. Like I paid money for this, so I should commit to this and do the best that I can. And I know we're veering a little bit away from the exact pricing structure there, but I think it would actually be unhelpful and possibly hurtful to people if I tried to throw out a number for a 12-month or a 12-week program, because it just varies. And that's
Yeah.
all, yeah, it's a
No,
little
it's great.
tricky.
This is really good advice because it is difficult. And Lysiana says where she lives is also lowest cost places to live and consider remote. So structuring her pricing has been a struggle. Lisa has a great question. I want to shift gears again after these, but these are such good questions. So I want to make sure we get those. Is the current economy currently affecting your business and price schedules?
So yes, absolutely. I'm gonna say it took some pivoting, especially post. I'm just gonna say this is a dirty word for a lot of people. Post pandemic, it just changed the trajectory of everything. And, some people went to struggling, some people went to being laid off, and it's just the world is not the same now. And so, whereas before, and again, I hesitate to throw numbers out there because I don't want people to latch onto these numbers and just apply them to their things. But, if I was doing a 12-week program and I was charging, let's just say $1,200 for it. For trying to keep my finger on the pulse of the demographic of people that I serve, maybe I needed to drop that back. But another option that I hadn't been using as everything changed was that if somebody can't pay that $1,200 in one go, which is optimal, so that people don't pull out in increments, there are still ways to let people pay in fours, for example, through other platforms. Something that I integrated in a while back was stuff like Shop Pay. If I'm selling things through, um, for example, setting up your own website through Squarespace, or setting up a website even through Shopify, if that's how you go about it. Some of these have integrations where people can pay in increments, but you're not the one that gets punished if a person misses a payment increment. It's the middle person that's handling it. So that was one of the places I found a little bit of cushion there, because it made things easier for that person. And this sounds not kind, but it's if they were having trouble paying, it's not something that's really negatively affecting your ability to serve them, and it's not affecting your livelihood. And that's just the realist speaking.
Yeah, that's super helpful, super actionable. I appreciate that. Um, okay, so I want to. I love these comments about imposter syndrome, about wanting, and in Kelly's question about would it be practical to start out first with clients somewhat less expensive. Um, I love that, and I'll let you address that too. But I also want to say a lot of this, and like for me personally, the imposter syndrome, the not knowing if I was worth charging enough was really helped when I went through the master coach course,
Hmm.
which is now the accelerated course. So I want to touch on that. Tell me about your primal journey. What brought you to primal, and what certifications did you go through, and how did you transition from personal training, and tell us a little bit more about your journey from there until now with primal.
Yes, absolutely. So, the transition from personal training to health coaching was entirely accidental. And, I'm going to admit that out front. I was starting to look at more than just physical fitness in trying to help people get healthier. And it wasn't until years later that I looked back and was like, wait a second, there's a word for all of that. It's health coaching. And so, I was looking at sleep, I was looking at stress, and I was combing through Instagram posts of people talking about what's helped with their sleep or their stress. And I was essentially testing those things out in a private practice. And, it was going through all these things and getting curious about individual things and thinking, like, why does that help with sleep? Why does that help with stress management? And, what's going on under the hood? And it was that mindset of learning how to learn and being fully aware of what I don't know that led me to seek filling in the gaps. Because the stuff that I was doing it was becoming effective in helping the people that I was working with. And I thought there's got to be something to this, but I know I can do better, because the more I learn that I don't know. And so in filling in the gaps, I looked around on the internet and I happened to stumble across health coaching. I think I actually saw one of Aaron's advertisement videos on Facebook. And I will tell you now, the first 10 times that I scrolled past it, I didn't click it, I didn't let it play. And this is another little like marketing tip. If you put something out there and a person sees it one time and doesn't click, that's not the end all be all. I found that, for myself and other settings, sometimes it takes 10 or 12 views before somebody's like, okay, let's see what this is about. But that's one of the gateways for me. And I discovered Primal Health, and I read through it and I looked through it, and for a solid year, I was actually just kind of looking through the stuff and trying to figure it out and watching videos of other reviews from people that had done the certifications. But I will say I was very targeted in my decisions with the certifications that I got through Primal Health, because I wanted to work in a setting that would allow me to influence healthcare standards. And that came from doctors not being able to help me before, and, mainstream medical, and I'm going to say beliefs this is a whole can of worms. I'm going to say beliefs because a lot of it's not grounded in science, but a lot of these beliefs out there were just not it. And I was starting to see more stories of people coming over to, holistic health practices, whether it be health coaches or, health professionals. And I will say, we're allied health professionals. So I'm going to lump us in there. Health professionals and allied health professionals. People started going to them in the holistic space. And that's kind of what triggered my I want to make a difference on a larger scale. So the certifications that I started out with, the first one I took was the basic, Primal Health Coach certification. That's like the jumping board that fills in all of the information that, I'm not going to say all of the information. It filled all the gaps that I had at the time that I was curious about. It's the foundation. You need to take it, and rightfully so. And from there, I moved into health coaching and medical practices specialization. And that one was a no brainer for me. And the value of it was fully realized once I completed it. I already thought it was great going in, but once I got through there, it led into some really important things for integrating into a medical setting, such as an EHR. I had never heard about or thought about an EHR. I didn't know that's what was on the screen whenever I'd go to the doctor's office and they were typing away at the keyboard, ignoring me. But um, an electronic health record, I now use that every single day for hours per day. And, that course touched on how an EHR works, the permanent nature of it, the reason for it, HIPAA regulations, because when you tread into that space, that medical space, that clinical setting, there are a lot more privacy laws that come into play. And admittedly, it's a higher consequence environment when something goes awry. So, that was really important for me because Dr. Judith Boyce, I love her personality. I've actually followed her outside of the course, but she just really well brought in all the information that has helped me do a really good job where I'm at now. And, I actually have notes that I need to look at because there's some important points about that course. Um, it does dig into specifically integrating as a health coach into a care team, and it gets into how to deal with other members of a care team that perhaps think that they're better or more qualified than you and that your role doesn't matter. And, I've been very fortunate to be very respected and treated as an equal where I work, even among the physicians. But, there are a lot of places out there that are starting to bring in health coaches that are still of the mainstream mindset. And, just speaking very candidly, there are a lot of doctors and nurse practitioners that have a God complex, and it's somewhat built into the system that way because we all praise the PhD. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't respect the amount of work and the time that goes into that. It's not easy. But that doesn't mean that those are the only people that have knowledge for helping people out, even in a clinical setting. So, another thing, real quick, that I brought up before about demographics served affecting price point. This is something that's also covered in the health coaching and medical practices certification. It talks about the people you're going to be serving because who you serve in a clinical setting is not the same as who you serve in a private setting generally. You, for the most part, are not going to be picking the type of people your target audience. Well, you don't have a target audience there. The audience is brought to you. You're the target coach. So you handle a broad spectrum of different people, different backgrounds, and you have to take those things into account. But moving on from there, the next thing I took was the functional lab testing certification, very specifically because in a clinical setting, it's only going to benefit you to better understand the lab work and the values, and also help patients understand lab work, values, and different blood metrics, because essentially you're going to be translating. And that's so important for the patient in those situations to have better understanding, because if we know that as health coaches, if people understand things better, they feel more empowered to make decisions about their health. And that's my thought on that. So,
Wow, that's incredible. So these courses, and yes, Diane, these are all Primal courses. So let's run
mm,
through a list of, you did the run through that list again for me, just in a row of all the Primal courses that you've completed.
yes. So I think I even missed one, but the base Primal Health Coach certification, that was the first one I got. And then immediately, I think I was still taking the course when I also went ahead and jumped on for the health coaching in medical practices specialist certification. And then after that, I did the functional lab testing certification. And at the same time I was doing that, I was doing the master health coaching certification. And to the previous point, I have to sing the praises of the master health coaching certification. That has given me that built upon the people skills that I've already been building up to that point.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that rundown because I am so fascinated by these other courses that I have not yet gotten to take, but I couldn't agree more. And that master coach certification, that accelerated certification is so valuable when it comes to coaching. And I've been coaching since 2017 and I took it last year, a year before last. It changed the way I coach. It changed the way I manage a team. It changed everything for me. It was just the most valuable thing I could imagine. Luciana says it's on her plate for the second cohort of this year. She's also contemplating going back to university and getting credentials as a nutritionist. That's awesome. 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 Diane says, love this question. I have a certification from another company, but never felt business prepared. Trying to find the right program for me now. I have followed Mark for years. So do you have any insight on business preparation in these primal coaching courses?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I researched other certifications. I looked at other places, you know. I mentally cheated on PHCI before I joined PHCI, but I did not see the attention to detail on setting up your business in any other certification. And, you know, in the interest of also respecting everybody by being really straightforward and honest with them, the business resources that are provided by PHCI, you get what you put into them. So, you know, just having access to them, I know for most of us here that's a no duh, but just having access to them and reading them, that's not going to net you the results that you want in your professional career. You know, you have to dig into them and you have to learn about them. And if there's something you don't understand, supplement it with some more information. But you got to get out there, boots on the ground, and just apply some of this stuff. And but I will say, you know, nowhere else have I seen as much attention to detail on building your own coaching practice.
It's almost like these coaching courses were built by health coaches. Like they know
Uh,
what they're doing.
yes,
They're,
absolutely.
it's true. You know, yes, you have to put into it, you know, what you get out of it, what you put into it. But at the same time, they support that so well. They know exactly what to do to help you implement and help you execute, which is exactly what a good health coach does, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And Lisa says, I too took a few views before exploring health coach and then PHCI. Friend and I at work looking for an escape from ER nursing. So I jumped for the whole
Oh,
enchilada. Will be my retirement job. That's awesome, Lisa. Congratulations. Congratulations. Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, I think we've gotten through all of the questions in the chat, and we are right at about an hour. I want to mention that I do have a link for you guys to follow. If anybody is interested in learning more about these courses that Rance mentioned, if you have not yet become a Primal Health Coach, from that base certification to any of these extra certifications, these extra courses, they are so clearly so valuable. I mean, Rance just gave us a real-time exact examples of how he used what he learned from these courses in his job. And I think that is just, it's amazing. Annika's asking a great question. Do you have a website and where can we follow you on Instagram?
oh, yes. So maybe it would be best for me to drop it in the chat, but
Yes, please.
yes. So my Instagram is, oh, I hope that's my Instagram. It's rance.fsh because my own practice is full spectrum human. Oh, I should add that that's Instagram, right?
I like that. Here, let's see. I'm gonna do it. Let me copy that
Gotcha.
because I think you are just sent that to me actually.
Okay.
There you go. So rance.fsh, do you have a website?
Yes, so that's something you can click through to my Instagram, but it's
Cool.
www.coach, wait, fsh-coach.com. It's actually been a long time since I've plugged that in, and I'm now going to confirm that. It is fsh-coach.com. And
Awesome.
yes.
Awesome. All right. And I'm going to drop the link to schedule a call with the team at Primal because our admissions team can give you all the details. I interviewed Jen from the admissions team. She is amazing at answering every detailed question that you could possibly have. We want to make sure that you feel completely supported if you make decisions on joining any of these courses. Terrence, newly certified coach, also thinking
Oh,
of taking the
awesome.
master course later this year. Yes, couldn't fit the early delivery to my schedule. Totally get it. Make it work for you. But I can tell you, I think both of us can say from experience with confidence that the master coach course is 1000% worth it. Um, so we do also have some special offers happening right now. So if you click on that link to schedule a call, the admissions team can tell you all about any special offers that we are offering for these courses. Good. Yes, Jen is amazing. She is so helpful. And you got the all access pass. Man, that's fantastic. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then the replay will be going out, and that link to schedule a call with the admissions team is also in the replay email that you'll be getting once the Zoom link, recording processes and we get it all in an email and get it sent out to everybody. Lisa has all access too. Well, fantastic.
Awesome.
Rance, this was awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, for your wisdom, for your advice, and getting into the granular details with us about your practice and about your experience. It's been really wonderful chatting with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And the only sad thing is I don't think it was long enough, but thank
It
you.
never is. I could do this all day.
Same. And thank you to
Awesome.
everybody else.
Thanks so much. You guys have a great day.